In today's video, we're going to be going through Boden's mate. You're going to learn how to spot this checkmating pattern in your own games. I've also made 10 custom puzzles for you guys. It's in the link to the description of this video, so do click on it, check it out afterwards. It's completely free. All right, let's go. Boden's checkmate. What is Boden's mate? Two attacking bishops on crisscrossing diagonals deliver checkmate to a king obstructed by friendly pieces. So here the move is bishop g6, checkmate. All right, let's jump into some of these puzzles. So more often than not, the king is going to be stuck with a couple pieces beside him, and we want to open up the rest of the position. And so, yes, even though it's an easy puzzle, there is a sacrifice here. We sacrifice the queen, the pawn takes, and the bishop comes in for the checkmate. But I think you'll start to see this pattern as we go. It's not a difficult one to find once you see that you have two bishops that can crisscross. Let's go to puzzle number 2. Pause if you'd like. Again, we sacrifice the queen, the pawn takes, and it's crisscross. Easy puzzle number 3. I think you guys can solve this yourself. We sacrifice, and it's crisscross. All right, let's up the difficulty. If you look at this puzzle, it's quite interesting. You really tend to think that the move is rook takes a6 here, moving down here looking for the checkmate. And if we did this and he took, obviously this is going to be checkmate in one move, crisscross. However, it's not this move. What if we take the pawn and they move the rook? And then they have a room for their king to get out. Well, this would still be checkmate because we take here and they move their rook and we go down here. The king can't go this way or this way, and they can't come up because of the bishop. So must be taking this pawn, right? Well, it's not, because if we take the pawn, they can actually move the knight. And let's say they move the knight to this square, then their king can escape this way on the board. And there's no way to cover this square. So like if we go here, here, and bishop here, it's not with check, then the rook can come up and the rook can't come down here to check because the knight can block. This puzzle is actually extremely simple. Just pretend there's a piece here. We're going to check here. You always want to look for forcing moves. And again, it's just crisscross. Medium puzzle number 2. This one is fairly simple as well. We can deliver a check here, and if the king takes, there is a checkmate here, but obviously this isn't working. It has to be a sacrifice that is not so obvious, and that sacrifice is putting the queen on c3. So we check here and deliver the checkmate here. So hopefully you're starting to see sometimes a sacrifice doesn't involve taking a pawn off the board or a minor piece off the board. Sometimes it involves you just putting your queen in a square where it has to be taken so that your other piece can come into the action and deliver the crisscross. All right, medium puzzle number 3. I can't say these puzzles are any much more difficult than the easy puzzles, but hopefully you can see rook sacks and bishop checkmate. It's always involving a sort of sacrifice one square apart from the king. So if you just look for that sort of pattern in your own game, you'll probably spot these. All right, let's try to go to some harder puzzles. All right, this one's a little trickier because it's a different move order, but we can actually see we can deliver a forcing move, the check here, and the king is going to be forced up, and then we can deliver a check here with the other bishop, and that's going to cut everything off. So not too difficult, but a slightly different variation. And it is somewhat difficult because you have to see on all sides of the board where the pieces can go. All right, hard puzzle number 2. Pause the puzzle if you'd like to solve. All right, this one is actually a little trickier because you think bishop takes and you're checking the king and the other bishop cuts off, crisscross, we're winning the game. However, our opponent can block 2 times on the e6 square, and so we really need to have 2 pieces that can trade off on this square. And so instead of taking with the bishop, we need to get the queen on this diagonal as well. So let's start with queen takes check, queen sacrifice, and then checkmate with bishop takes e6, crisscross. All right, the last hard puzzle, and then we'll jump on to the hardest puzzle. All right, this one, we need to make sure we understand the pattern. We want to get the bishop crisscross, and we often want to sacrifice a square away from the king, but it doesn't work here because if we sacrifice here, the pawn can simply take. And so we don't want to do anything so stupid. We need to open up this diagonal. And how do we open this up? Forcingly? Well, we could take the pawn, but then they could just capture here. Then it's checkmate, but they don't have to capture because it's not a forcing move. So if we take here, I mean, maybe the king starts running, you know, and goes over here or something. So what we need to do is we need to move in with check, and then we get the checkmate. All right, here we have the hardest difficulty. Pause, solve it for yourself, and then see if you were right. Here we have the bishop takes the pawn with check. The king's forced back. And now we have a medium puzzle or an easy puzzle. We take the knight with check. The pawn is forced to take. And finally, we deliver the crisscross applesauce. Happy days. If you enjoyed this, do leave a like. Go to the link in the video description and practice these for yourself. And I'll try to make them a wee bit more challenging. Let me know in the comments if you're able to solve them. I'll be making a bunch more of these checkmating pattern videos, so do stay tuned for the next one.